The Golden Globe nominations have been announced. We're going to talk about all of the TV ones in addition to 6 new reviews for you, including the CW's reboot of Walker, Texas Ranger with Jared Padalecki. Let's talk TV. Hey everybody, Dan here. Welcome to Dan Reviews It, and this week's TV news and reviews. Glad you're joining me here. We have a ton of news to talk about in addition to the Golden Globe announcements last week for the nominations. Of course, a lot of those being in the movie world, but a lot of TV stuff as well. So we're going to talk about that in addition to 6 brand new shows to talk about for reviews. So we've got a lot of ground to cover. Review-wise, we're going to talk about Walker, the new Walker Texas Ranger series, like I mentioned, Trickster, which is another show on the CW. That one comes from the CBC. Resident Alien with Alan Tudyk over on Sci-Fi. The Sister, which is a British show that is currently on Hulu. Bridge and Tunnel from Epix. And Go Dog Go, a version for kids of the old classic children's book, a new animated show on Netflix. So let's get started with the news. I guess let's start with the Golden Globes, right? There's a couple of awards things going on recently announced. The Kids' Choice Awards for 2021 is a go over at Nickelodeon. Kenan Thompson will be the host of that, and I'm not going to really go over many of the nominations, but one that stuck out to me, because a lot of it is, really kid-based, or at least sort of, tween and early teens. Like, there's some PG-13 movies in the mix, like Mulan and Wonder Woman 1984 and Hamilton. But one thing I thought was very odd was that the gal that plays Veronica on Riverdale is up for Best Actress in a TV Show. And I was like, Riverdale's, for Kids' Choice, okay, that's a bit much. Teen Choice, sure. Kids' Choice, watching Riverdale. If I'm 6, I'm not watching Riverdale, or at least I shouldn't be. So that one stuck out to me, but everything else sort of made sense. And obviously, Kenan Thompson is trying to get eyeballs on his new NBC show, which starts in a couple of weeks. So makes sense he would be the host. But let's talk about the Golden Globe. So back to host is Amy and Tina, who have done it a few times already. I think maybe 3 times. And so they will be hosting again, Amy Poehler, of course, and Tina Fey. And it takes place February 28th, so we're a few weeks away from it. Usually by this time of the year, the Golden Globes is over, and most of the other major award shows are over. And then the Oscars, happen sometime in February, maybe the first week of March. But this year the Oscars won't be till April, so we don't even know what's nominated for the Oscars. But a lot of times Golden Globes are sort of an indicator of some of that. But of course, we're going to focus here on the TV stuff, as this is my TV news and review show. So let's talk drama. So for Best Drama, The Crown, Lovecraft Country, The Mandalorian, Ozark, and Ratched. I've never seen The Crown. I know it's great, and maybe I would enjoy it, but I've never seen it. Mandalorian, I didn't see any of Season 2 yet. Ozark, I haven't seen any of the latest season. I think it's Season 3 that is being nominated here. So for me, it's between Lovecraft Country and Ratched, because those are the only ones I've seen. Lovecraft Country I thought was amazing. It was in my top 10 of the year, so I would give it to that. Who will get it? It's hard to say. Probably The Crown or Ozark, I would guess. So sticking with drama, let's do actor and actress. Jason Bateman in Ozark, Josh O'Connor as Prince Charles in The Crown, Bob Odenkirk, a perennial favorite for Better Call Saul, Al Pacino for Hunters. I kind of forgot about that show because it started almost a year ago, I think. And Matthew Rhys as Perry Mason, which I thought was okay. Again, I'm a season behind on Better Call Saul, so I didn't see any of the latest episodes. But Bob Odenkirk always does great work on that. And Jason Bateman always doing great work on Ozark as well. And Al Pacino, I think, is giving his best performance in a while in Hunters. I didn't think he was even that good in The Irishman, the Scorsese movie. So I don't know. I would probably give it to Jason Bateman or Al Pacino. Don't know who's going to win. I think Bateman won last year maybe for it. So he could be a favorite there. For actress, Olivia Colman in The Crown, Jodie Comer in Killing Eve, or Comer. I have to watch Killing Eve. I know. It's always on these lists for awards. Emma Corrin in The Crown as Diana. Laura Linney for Ozark. and Sarah Paulson for Ratched. Sarah Paulson is much beloved at these award shows, and I do think she gave a great performance as Nurse Ratched, but I think that show on the whole is probably less of a favorite than some of these other shows that are up for the actress. So I don't know, maybe somebody from The Crown. I mean, Olivia Colman is always a favorite for everything. She plays Queen Elizabeth II in the latest installment of The Crown, so she'll probably win it. But I've only of these shows, I've only seen the latest Ratched episodes. I don't know. Laura Linney, I don't even think is that great in Ozark, so I wouldn't give it to her probably anyway. But I do like Olivia Colman just in general, so that might make sense. Shifting over to comedy, musical or comedy is the category. Emily in Paris, which, I mean, that's, come on. The Flight Attendant, The Great, Schitt's Creek, and Ted Lasso. Again, no show from a regular broadcast network. The Golden Globes and the Emmys really have all but shut out the major broadcast networks. There's a couple in the acting categories as we go down the list, but mostly these are all either cable stations or streamers. Boy, I watched all of these. Well, no, I can't say that. Schitt's Creek, I actually still haven't seen. I have the box set for it, and I want to start from the beginning. I think that's going to be a hands-on favorite at the Globes. It won all of the major Emmy awards last year for comedy a few months ago, and so this is the final season for Schitt's Creek, so I feel like they're probably going to be lavishing a lot of praise on that. I think it's going to go to either that or Ted Lasso. Ted Lasso has a lot of critics behind it. I loved it, certainly in my top, I forget, 3 maybe of the year. I think it was number 2 or 3 for me of the whole year. I love Ted Lasso. But I don't know. I think maybe Schitt's Creek will get it. For the acting awards, Don Cheadle in Black Monday, Nicholas Hoult in The Great, Eugene Levy for Schitt's Creek, Jason Sudeikis, Ted Lasso, and Rami Youssef for Rami. My gut is telling me Jason Sudeikis for Ted Lasso. I think Schitt's Creek will get a lot of awards, but I'm not sure if Eugene Levy will take one of them. So that's my gut on there. Who should win it? I've never seen Black Monday. Rami, I thought season 2 was not quite as good as season 1. So I don't think I'd give it to him. I'd probably give it to Sudeikis myself. Best Actress, Lily Collins for Emily in Paris, Kaylee Cuoco for The Flight Attendant, Elle Fanning for The Great, Jane Levy for Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist. There's your broadcast show. And she is great in that. And Catherine O'Hara for Schitt's Creek. I mean, these are all really good performances. Lily Collins is okay, but that show is very average compared to the other ones. So she's the best thing about that, but it's an average show. I think Kaylee Cuoco might have a chance. Flight Attendant on HBO Max is very popular, and she's getting a lot of accolades for it. But the sentimental favorite may be Catherine O'Hara for Schitt's Creek in that. All right, so best actress in or best miniseries or television film. Let's start there. Normal People on Hulu, The Queen's Gambit on Netflix, Small Axe on Prime Video, which is a film series, but it originally aired on BBC television, so they're counting it as a miniseries here. The Undoing on HBO and Unorthodox on Netflix. I've seen all of these. I haven't seen every episode of all of them, but for me, Queen's Gambit was the best show of the year, be it miniseries or regular series, so for me, it's definitely Queen's Gambit. Best Actor, Bryan Cranston for Your Honor, Jeff Daniels in The Comey Rule, Hugh Grant in The Undoing, Ethan Hawke, The Good Lord Bird, and Mark Ruffalo playing twins in I Know This Much Is True. I didn't see The Comey Rule, but all of these others, man, these are some bang-up performances. I would probably give it to Ethan Hawke. I think The Good Lord Bird is a great series. Again, one of my top 10 of last year. And he's a huge reason why. And I don't always love Ethan Hawke. I'm a bit hit or miss on him, but here I think he does a great job. I would give it to him. I think based on the critics and what they say about these different shows, I think they might give it to Ethan Hawke as well. For Best Actress, Cate Blanchett in Mrs. America, Daisy Edgar Jones, Normal People, Shira Haas for Unorthodox, Nicole Kidman in The Undoing, and Anya Taylor-Joy in The Queen's Gambit. I don't know. I mean, for me, it's Anya Taylor-Joy, Queen's Gambit. But there's a lot of heavy hitters up here. Nicole Kidman could take it for The Undoing. Kate Blanchett, Mrs. America, is good, but it's such a strong ensemble that I'm not sure she stands out as much as certain others. So I might say that it's probably between Kidman and Anya Taylor-Joy at the end of the day. So supporting, now the supporting categories go for anything, series, miniseries, or television film. So John Boyega is up for his one episode / film of Small Axe. Brendan Gleeson's up for The Comey Rule, Dan Levy for Schitt's Creek, Jim Parsons for Hollywood, and Donald Sutherland for The Undoing. Again, maybe some sentimental favorites here in like Donald Sutherland and Brendan Gleeson, but I think this is Dan Levy's. He just hosted SNL last week, a couple days ago. He is, really on fire with this character, David, and since it is the last season, and I don't think it's been given much love at the Globes before this year, I think it's probably going to go to him. Going over to supporting actress Gillian Anderson in The Crown as Margaret Thatcher. She's getting a lot of raves for that. Helena Bonham Carter for The Crown as Princess Margaret. Julia Garner in Ozark, always a favorite. Annie Murphy in Schitt's Creek, and Cynthia Nixon in Ratched. This could be another Schitt's Creek sweep. Annie Murphy could take it. But I think Julia Garner, now again, I haven't seen the latest season of Ozark, but she always comes up in these awards. And she really, I think, without her and that character of hers, Ruth, you don't have much of a show, really. She offers, at least in those first couple of seasons, such a great, I don't know, anti-character. She's very complex because she's not really the villain. Well, anyway, I don't know. I think it's probably between her and Annie Murphy. I barely even remember Cynthia Nixon in Ratched, so probably not for her. But all right, so those are the Globes. Let's move on because there's a ton of other news to talk about too, but we'll see who wins those in just a few weeks. Renewals and cancellations, we have I Can See Your Voice getting renewed for Season 2, no surprise there. Fox is having great luck with that and their masked programs on Wednesday night. I Can See Your Voice gets 6 million viewers a week. That's over all platforms within the first 7 days of airing. But even live on television, it gets somewhere in the 4 million range, so not bad. And then State of the Union, which I'm not familiar with, but I read it and it sounds interesting. It's on Sundance Television, and it's coming back for Season 2. And like Season 1, it's going to be 10 episodes of 10 minutes apiece, which is, I guess, why I don't know about it, because I don't usually do short-form shows for this review show. Except for, like, when Quibi came out, I did a few of those, but not really. But Patricia Clarkson and Brendan Gleeson star in this, both people I really like. So, I don't know, maybe I'll check this out, State of the Union. And then shows that are ending. So these have been canceled, technically, but they are all getting one final season. So The Bold Type, the upcoming Season 5, will be its final for Freeform, and they're only getting 6 episodes. Last season was 16 episodes. And then the first 3 seasons were all 10 episodes. I think I've seen the first 3 seasons of this. A little behind on my Freeform shows. But Freeform is one of those cable networks that actually gives you like a hefty amount of episodes. Grownish usually has 16 or 18 episodes per season. The Fosters did as well when that was on. So I do applaud them for thinking more like a traditional television network, as opposed to a lot of the shows on cable that are only 8 to 10 episodes per season. Shrill on Season 3, the upcoming season, that will be its last. A.D. Bryant from SNL actually took the first half of the season of SNL off to do Shrill. In the first 2 seasons of the show, she would just do it on SNL's break over the summer, but obviously with COVID and everything, nobody was shooting for months and months, so she was in Portland for most of the fall shooting Shrill, and then she came back in December, I think, to SNL to do new episodes. But the upcoming Season 3 on Hulu will be its last, and then On My Block on Netflix, which I've never heard of, I don't think, but it's getting a Season 4 coming up, and that will be the last season for that. I read the description for it. It does sound interesting, but I'm not sure how I've managed to miss all this over the years, but it's getting a Season 4 if you do like that show, On My Block. Quickly, I don't talk usually about celebrity deaths, but we had a ton of them this past week and a half. Larry King passed in late January, but even after that, the last week or so, for TV celebs, we've had Cloris Leachman at 94, obviously, huge on the Mary Tyler Moore Show. I very much enjoyed her work in Raising Hope, and I think my generation probably knows her best from The Facts of Life, at least initially. That's where, when she came on when I was like 10, I had never heard of her. I had never seen Young Frankenstein. I'd never seen Mary Tyler Moore Show. And I'm actually going through all the Facts of Life seasons right now, and I'm on season 7, which is right before Cloris Leachman shows up. So I'm about to get to those episodes. Hal Holbrook at 95, most known for his stage work as Mark Twain, and some movies here or there, but he has some TV work as well. He was a regular on Evening Shade with Burt Reynolds in the 90s, and the very famous miniseries North and South. And I think he was in the sequel to that as well in the 90s. And then Cicely Tyson, again, a lot of movie work on her resume, but some TV stuff as well. Most notably, I would say, was the miniseries Roots, which admittedly I still have not seen. I've seen some of the popular clips, but as for sitting down and watching the 7 or 8 hours of it, I've never seen that, and I really need to, because obviously it's a huge touchstone in popular culture, in Black history, and all of that kind of stuff. And then the real surprise, I think, because he was so young, but he was just diagnosed with cancer, is Dustin Diamond. Never been a huge fan of his or the original Saved by the Bell, but I just mentioned last week on TV News and Reviews that he had gotten this cancer diagnosis, and that after being so contentious with his former castmates in Saved by the Bell, they were sort of sending out well wishes and this and that. And so I was hoping maybe he would make an appearance on season 2 of Saved by the Bell, the reboot. Obviously, that is not to be right now. But yeah, unfortunately, like 2 days after I put my last TV News and Reviews up, he had passed already. So very, very quick with that stage 4 cancer diagnosis just a few weeks ago. Other notes, Peacock, the streaming service, has now hit 33 million subscribers. And that's, I guess by the end of the year is when they hit that, but they just sort of announced that. Not bad, since it really just went up about, 7 or 8 months ago. And of all the streamers I pay for, I actually don't pay for Peacock because they put so many things up for free. Now, for me to watch the entire Saved by the Bell reboot, I would have to pay, or to watch the latest season of AP Bio, I will have to pay. So eventually I will get around to doing that. But for now, I mean, even their brand new shows that are Peacock exclusives, they'll put up the first episode or two, to entice people. Luckily for me, I just review the first couple episodes of most shows on the TV News and Reviews, so no real need for me to pay for it at this time, but I'm sure it's coming. Nick Cannon is back on track for his 2021 talk show, which will be starting this fall. It was supposed to start last year, but through no issue with COVID at all, through his anti-Semitic comments that got him in a lot of hot water with certainly CBS, firing him from the Wild and Out series that he created. But he is still hosting Fox's Masked Singer, and so they are going forward with his talk show, which will start in the fall. And then there is a new game show, I guess. It's a competition show. Sounds like it's going to be some sort of cross of like Ultimate Tag, Wipeout, Holy Moly, the golf show. It's Whack-A-Mole. That classic carnival game is coming to a TV near you. Hasn't been picked up to series yet. They're just going to sort of make a pilot episode for it. But Mattel has teamed up with Fremantle. Big pedigree there. They produce the Masked shows, and they produced American Idol. Or I guess still produce American Idol with the revival. So Whack-A-Mole, I think we've seen stupider. So I don't know. I'll give it a try. In casting news, we have Law & Order Organized Crime. There's still no release date for this, but this is Christopher Maloney's return to his Law & Order roots, playing the famous character that he always played with Mariska Hargitay. And now we're adding Dylan McDermott to the cast. So another famous name popping up. I think he's going to be the partner in this show, so we'll see that. There's a new Amazon anthology show called Solo. I don't usually talk about shows that people have not heard of, but I thought this was very interesting because it's going to be an anthology series, and according to the creators, Solos will tell character-driven stories set at different moments in time and will aim to showcase that during people's most isolated moments and in disparate circumstances, the human experience connects everyone. That's the byline from the producers. But listen to some of the people they've gotten for this show. Helen Mirren, Morgan Freeman, Anne Hathaway, Constance Wu, Dan Stevens, Anthony Mackie, Uzo Aduba. So a lot of people, big names. I'm guessing they will each be the star of one of those episodes. And finally, we'll do reboots and spinoffs. Skull Island and Tomb Raider are both coming to Netflix in anime form. They're going to have anime series for both of these properties. Skull Island will just take the sort of premise from Kong Skull Island and just dump new people there. I don't know if it actually will involve King Kong or not. I assume it probably will. And then Tomb Raider will take place after the most recent video game trilogy, which ended in 2018. I've never played a Tomb Raider game, so I don't really know much about it, but I've seen a couple of the movies. I saw parts of the original Angelina Jolie movie, and then I saw all, I guess, of the most recent one with, I'm trying to think of the gal that played Lara Croft in the newer one. I can't remember, but it was an okay movie. I think I gave it a B or something. But for fans of that might be something to look for on Netflix. Kate and Allie has a pilot commitment at NBC. Now, this is a show that I never watched growing up, but much like The Facts of Life, I'm actually going through right now. I've been every week watching a new episode of Kate and Allie for the last year and a half or something like that. I'm on season 4 right now, and it's Jane Curtin and who was the other gal in Kate and Allie? I need to know. She was actually the more famous though of the two. Jane Curtin had done SNL, obviously. Susan St. James. But she was very famous at the time for Macmillan and Wife, which I didn't watch that. That was on before I was born. But she was, kind of like a big, TV star. And Jane Curtin had only done SNL, no real movie work yet, no real sitcom work. Of course, later she would do Third Rock from the Sun. But anyway, CBS was the original home of Kate and Allie, and now it's on NBC. And I have to admit, I really have been enjoying watching those episodes. I think it holds up from the 80s, and I also think that it was pretty progressive for its time because you had these two women living together with their kids, and it's sort of a blended family of sorts. But yes, they go date and everything, but more important is each other, and they have each other to lean on, and it's basically a show about friendship as single mothers, really, and it's also very, very funny. So I'm excited to see that in action. In terms of spin-offs, I'm not too familiar with this show, but I've heard of it. All American is getting a spin-off. It's one of the CW's most popular shows, and in fact, its third season premiere just happened not long ago and logged the show's biggest ratings ever. But the character Simone Hicks on the show is getting a spinoff, possibly called All American Homecoming, which enlists her in an all-black college. It actually reminds me a lot of sort of the premise of A Different World, where we saw Lisa Bonet spun off from The Cosby Show, going to a historically black college in Hillman. So I don't know. And then two reboots that have been talked about for a little while. Finally, some more information about The Wonder Years is a go officially at ABC. Lee Daniels is going to be producing that, and it's about a black family in the South, but it will take place at the same time as the original show. So late 60s. I think the first season of Wonder Years is in 69, because I feel like there was a NASA launch, landing on the moon sort of plot line in one of the early episodes of Wonder Years. But that's one of my favorite shows. I mean, growing up, I loved the Wonder Years. Co-creator Neil Marlins is on as a consultant, and the original star of the show, Fred Savage, is going to direct the pilot episode. So I'm very much looking forward to that. It's one of 3 new pilots that have been commissioned by ABC for potential in the fall. And then Frasier. This has been coming up for a few years now. It's been in development since 2018, and we may have a new home for Frasier. NBC, of course, was the original home, but it was a Paramount-produced show, which means it is currently on CBS All Access in addition to some other streamers. But CBS All Access in March will become Paramount Plus, and that is who is eyeing up the Frasier return, which makes sense because, of course, like I said, Paramount was the original studio. They have the rights, so why not keep it in the family? So that's where Frasier may be going whenever it does get off the ground, which hopefully is soon. All right, so that's the news. I know it's a lot. So in respect to time, let's try to barrel through these 6 reviews, but like usual, I think we'll spend the most time probably on the first one, which is the Walker Texas Ranger reboot, simply called Walker. It's on the CW, and it stars Jared Padalecki. Of course, he is fresh from the Supernatural series finale not long ago, because it was supposed to air last May, I guess, or June, and because of COVID shutdowns starting in March, well, they couldn't finish the last few episodes, so of course the CW was like, look, you're our flagship TV show, we're going to let you finish what you started here. So they wrapped up their run of episodes in the fall, which might mean Jared actually was pulling sort of double duty. He may have been filming Supernatural's final episodes as he was filming Walker's first few episodes. I don't know. But a couple of names you might recognize in here. Mitch Pileggi is playing his father, and he was on The X-Files for many, many years. But basically, Jared Padalecki plays Cordell Walker, a legendary Texas Ranger who just returned home after a lengthy undercover assignment, which sort of was well placed for him because his wife died about a year ago, and his 2 daughters are now sort of being raised by his parents, played again, by Mitch Pileggi, and the mom played by Molly Hagan, who I know most from Herman's Head years ago, but I'm sure she's done many, many things since then. We also have Keegan Allen playing Liam, which is Cordell's younger brother, who is an assistant DA for the city of Austin. Now, one thing I didn't realize while watching this, because I was impressed with Padalecki's strong Texas accent. It turns out he is actually from Texas, and I guess learned how to drop the accent for some of his other shows like Gilmore Girls and Supernatural. But this is actually right in his wheelhouse. It's an interesting choice to put this on the CW. Now, CW and CBS are both owned by Viacom, so it does sort of make sense that, all right, the original was on CBS. We're going for a younger audience. Let's put it on the CW. Because CBS, of course, is famous for, rebooting some of their old properties like Magnum P.I., MacGyver wasn't theirs originally, but they have the MacGyver reboot with a much younger star. And look, Padalecki, God bless him, he's a little older than me, but he still looks so young and so good. I had to look up how old he was because I was a little bit dumbfounded that he could be the father of 2 teenage girls. And sure enough, he's a couple years older than me, so yeah, that makes sense. He could have had them in his late teens or early 20s, and there you go. But the show, unlike the original Walker Texas Ranger, which was more about just kicking everybody's butt and Chuck Norris being a badass and, I'm Chuck Norris and this and that, this is a more grounded show, I think. It's certainly more about the family drama within the Walker family, but it's also going to be about, I think, the camaraderie between him and his partner, who is played by, let me see here, Lindsay Morgan plays Mickey Ramirez, the new partner to Walker. And so I think it's going to be about him and his family, but I think it's also going to be about, getting back into the swing of things while being undercover for so long, and with this new partner sort of, learning the ropes together on how to deal with one another and this and that and the other thing. Unfortunately, all of that makes it very generic. And the acting here is, I would say, spotty. Now, the CW, I wouldn't say is known for its great acting. It doesn't win any awards. But, we do see a lot of at least decent acting in shows like Riverdale or Batwoman. And, look, Jared Padalecki is doing a great job here. I think he is certainly the glue that holds the show together, and I think he was a good casting choice. I'm not much of a Supernatural fan. After about 2 seasons, I was like, all right, I get it. Every episode's kind of the same. We got it. And, I didn't really like his character on Gilmore Girls, but I've always sort of liked this dude as an actor. He's obviously a pretty boy, very handsome. And, obviously right now in 2020, 2021, we want to sort of tone down police violence in shows. Whereas Walker, Texas Ranger back in the 90s, it was like, oh yeah, Chuck Norris is great. He's going to, get them bad guys by breaking all the rules. Here, look, it's a different era. I don't think we can do that. So do we have more of a milquetoast show because of that? I guess so. But the exchange is that this is going to be more about family and more about his life back at home, trying to reconnect with his daughters, who are kind of pissed that he took off for the year while, everybody in the family was falling apart because of the mother's death. So I think there's some interesting elements here. I'm not sure how well they're all going to come together to bring this show out from its more generic tones. But I think for something on the CW, we haven't seen. I'm 2 episodes in, and there's nothing that's been supernatural yet. There's no ghosts. Nancy Drew became supernatural. Riverdale became supernatural. Thus far in this show, maybe it's too on the nose because Padalecki, I don't know. But I think this show is actually getting slammed by the critics. I like to look at Rotten sometimes for what critics are saying. I don't usually look at their blurbs, but I'll look at the score. It has a 29% critic score and 56% audience score. I think that's a little harsh. Now, look, I don't know how Supernatural fans are going to feel about it because it is not as action-heavy as that. And I certainly don't know how Walker, Texas Ranger fans are going to feel about it. Probably not good. So maybe if you're a big fan of one or both of those shows, it may hit you differently than it hit me. Whereas I'm looking at it just as this show, as a standalone show. And I think it's okay for what it is. So it's not one I'll continue to watch. I don't really care that much about the story or anything. I have no interest really in keeping up with this family, but I think it's getting a little bit of a critical drubbing. Yes, it's a bit generic, but I think Padalecki is doing his best here to give us an authentic performance, and so for that, I have to give it at least a slightly above average grade. If it was bad enough, I would have bailed after episode 1, but I stuck with it for a second one. So I'm going to leave Walker with a C+. All right, let's keep it going with the CW and move on to Trickster. This is a show that originally was broadcast in Canada on the CBC. Now, of course, with a lot of the networks trying to get new product for their fall and spring schedules, with COVID shutting things down, obviously a lot of networks are really pulling from different sources. We've talked about this many times on my show, and this is the latest example of that, but we'll stick with CW since we just did Walker. But this is basically about Jared, who's played by Joel Olette, and he is a teenager, small-time drug dealer in British Columbia, and he all of a sudden has a lot of things happen around him that are a little bit confusing. Is it the result of a drug trip, or are these things really happening to him? We as the audience are only half in on the answer to that, while Jared is still trying to figure it out himself. He's got a mentally incapacitated mother. She's she hallucinates, and she's got mental illnesses. They don't exactly say what it is, but she certainly has some issues that have caused her to be basically an absentee mother, and she will show up to his place of work and sort of make scenes and stuff. Crystal Lightning plays Maggie, who is the mother, and then his dad. He's sort of struggling to kind of connect with him because the dad is having a new baby on the way with this stepmom, or maybe she's just a girlfriend, I don't know, but Craig Lazan plays the father, and we've got the best friend here, Nathan Alexis, who is this real heavy kid, computer video game nerd, whatever, and is sort of an outcast, the antithesis to the popular Jared character. But they used to be best friends, and they sort of are reconnecting now because of all this weirdness going on in Jared's life. The show has already been canceled for season 2, so CW will finish airing what it purchased in season 1. Originally, it was going to be a season 2, but they reversed that decision on the CBC because I guess the executive producer Michelle Latimer had a bunch of legal problems. I didn't really look into it, but I guess they reversed their cancellation. Now, I suppose if it does well enough in the ratings on the CW, they could potentially purchase it outright and make their own season 2 of this show. I don't think that will happen, but I think the show is intriguing. I mean, now this one does have a supernatural element to it, CW classic way. People might be coming back from the dead. People might be visions. We're not sure yet. But I lasted 2 episodes through this as well. And I think the acting is maybe among the weaker parts, certainly from the parents. I think the kid actually is okay as the teenager, and you really do kind of feel for him. You feel his plight. It is sort of a typical realistic teenage show. I just wrapped up, doing all the Freaks and Geeks reviews and stuff, and that was a very, very, realistic, I felt, TV series about high school. This really is hitting the mark as well as life in 2019, 2020, whenever it was filmed, goes for teenagers. Drug dealing, trying to work a part-time job as well, trying to make ends meet for the family, and God knows I've seen people that have had to do things like that. It's not easy. It's not fun. Your grades certainly suffer, and this kid is learning all of that. But of most intrigue, I think, is the supernatural plot, which is, I know, ironic because I always rail on the CW for making everything have a supernatural bent to it, but this one actually, I think it works for it, and I really kind of took to this kid, this Joel Olette. I don't know anything else he was in, but he's going to be in a new movie called Abducted that's supposed to come out this year, but other than that, I don't really know him from anything, but I think he really holds this show together well. I think his camaraderie with the former best friend, I mean, that's something that we've seen many times, from teen series going back to My So-Called Life and Daria and even before that. But I think it's put to good use here as well, and I like the kid that plays his friend, and it's all kind of believable, their friendship and everything. So I don't know. It's a short series, I guess, if it's not coming back, because I think there's only 6 episodes total, and I think the last 2 have yet to air on the CW. But either way, I guess you could maybe consider this a miniseries. I leave Trickster with a B. So up next, we've got Resident Alien. This is on Sci-Fi, and I think this could maybe be the biggest sci-fi show in a while. I mean, I've been doing this news and reviews for about a year and a half. I think I've only maybe done 2 shows that are sci-fi originals. It's just they don't do a lot of originals these days, and the ones they do are kind of under the radar or whatever. But this one has a big star at the helm. I wouldn't say he's an A-lister, but he's certainly one of the top that guys in the industry. Alan Tudyk, you may actually know his voice more than his face. He voices a lot of Disney characters, including the King of Weselton in Frozen and King Candy in Wreck-It Ralph. I know him as Steve the Pirate from Dodgeball, but he's done many, many, many other things since then, of course, and he's always enjoyable. He actually did a show a few years ago, I think it was on NBC, that I thought was very funny too. But he plays an alien here after crash landing on Earth, and he is taking on the identity of a small-town Colorado doctor, and his true identity, the alien, is on a secret mission to essentially destroy Earth. And so he is a Alan Tudyk looking person to everyone in town except for this one kid who sees the true self of the alien version of Alan Tudyk's character. But nobody believes him because he's a kid. So when he's like, oh, there's an alien under my bed, they're like, kid, no, there's not, go back to bed, whatever. So, it takes some interesting leaps with that sort of premise. Other than that, look, I think everything surrounding this like the premise is sort of what we've seen a lot of times in these alien type shows. Not necessarily the destruction of human society, although we have seen that before a little bit. But I'm thinking of things like Alf, Mork and Mindy, Third Rock from the Sun. Like the main alien shows of the last 20, 30 years. The Neighbors on ABC. That one's maybe not so major, but they all sort of have the same premise of like, an alien coming to Earth to try and learn earthly ways, and so we see Alan Tudyk's character doing a lot of that sort of stuff. What's the name of the character, by the way? Captain Ha-Ray. Oh, that's funny. All right, Captain Ha-Ray. That's his alien name. He has a different name as a human doctor. But anyway, so he's, learning things, and he's, watching TV to get some catchphrases and da-da-da-da. That stuff is like all, we've seen that, we've done that, been there. But what sets this apart really is Tudyk himself. And something that I really appreciate about this show is ever really since, like, Friends, Seinfeld, a lot of those, like, ensemble shows, most of what we get these days is ensemble programs, with comedies. If they're workplace, we see everybody at the workplace. Yeah, you could technically say The Office was sort of built around Steve Carell, but he wasn't really a star yet at the time, so looking back, you can't really say that. And maybe, Parks and Rec was, a vehicle for Amy Poehler, but became an ensemble very quickly. Same with Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Superstore's an ensemble. Even shows sort of built around the star like Mr. Mayor and Call Me Kat with Mayim Bialik from this season. Those are both actually ensembles too. But here, this really is sort of the Alan Tudyk show. He is featuring all of his comedic chops, and because he's great with voices, he does narration as well that really sort of gives another layer to the character. It's almost like he's doing two characters in one, because the inner monologue of the character is very different from how he presents himself to the other humans, and Tudyk can pull it off, so I didn't know what to think, because I don't know, Sci-Fi Channel to me, I always think of like Sharknado and just these like really corny movies, corny shows, low budgets and stuff. But I think they really have a winner on their hands with this. I'm not sure how long we can continue the premise, but obviously he's sort of on his mission to destroy the world. He finds a hidden piece of the puzzle at the end of the first episode. It's not really a spoiler because we still don't know quite what he's looking for or anything like that, but we sort of know going into it that's what the premise is of the show, that he wants to destroy everybody. But I thought this was funny. I'm not sure if it quite needed to be an hour-long show. Like all those sitcoms I mentioned in the alien genre are half-hour shows. I think this could be maybe a little bit of time wasted by making it a whole hour-long show. I think maybe they could have gotten more jokes and more, fast-paced humor with a half-hour show, which Tudyk can certainly handle. So I may knock it off a slight bit from that. But I found this to be very enjoyable. I could see this one, after the season is over, me rising my grade up a little bit, to something stronger. But for now, I think it's a very solid start for Resident Alien. I'm going to leave it for now with a B+. Up next, we've got The Sister. This is over on Hulu, and this is a mini-series. It's 4 episodes long. It's already finished. So you can watch all 4 episodes if you want. I was thinking about it if I had some extra time, but then I got caught up in some other things. I watched The Sound of Music on Friday in honor of Christopher Plummer, so that was 3 hours I did not get to spend on TV. But Neil Cross wrote the book for this. It's based on one of his novels, and you may not know his name as an author, but he created the show Luther, which is very popular, starring Idris Elba. So here his book was called Burial, and the show is called The Sister. So this stars Russell Tovey, and this is a British show, so I don't really know any of these people, but he plays Nathan Redman, the lead character, and essentially what's going on in this show basically is that he is married to this woman, and her sister had been murdered 10 years earlier, or disappeared, I guess. And things are happy in his life, da 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 da. And then this dude from his past named Bob turns up with some very shocking news. And without giving spoilers, let's just say that some twists and turn happens after we meet this character Bob, and Nathan's world kind of falls apart because of it. And as we move on, we see where that dead woman is in relationship to Nathan, and in relationship to Bob, and in relationship to the sister, and whatever. I watched an episode and a half of this. It's very slow moving. I can tell you it does not need to be a mini series. I think a television movie for 2 hours would have done the trick. Not everything needs to be a mini series. Things can just be movies. Remember when you would turn a book into a movie? Now they have to be 6 episodes, 8 episodes, 10, because it's from England, it's a little shorter, thankfully. So 4 episodes. But nobody really, except maybe the wife, is very likable. And if they are, we can't figure it out because they don't give us enough character development to even notice. So, we don't really know. Not only do we not know what's happening because of the mystery element of it, but also because of the jarring flashbacks. There's no context of like what era we're in. We just have to pick up all the cues around us of like, okay, who are these people talking to and what are they saying, to figure out where we are in the timeline. So I found that to be very jarring. The acting here is fine. I don't really have much of an issue with that. It's more the writing and the blandness of the character development, which there isn't much of. I don't think it needed to be 4 hours, even though I haven't gotten to the end of it. So maybe it's hard for me to even say that. But a lot of times you can just sort of tell with how it's paced that, all right, this is going to be dragged out longer than it needs to be. And look, especially since you're not giving as much to work off. The mystery element, we still don't really know an episode and a half in anything kind of that's happening. And by the halfway through point on episode 2, I was like, you know what? I don't care about any of these characters. And after 90 minutes or so, that's not a good sign. So I'm going to leave the sister with a D+. Up next, we will talk about Bridge and Tunnel. This is on Epix, but you can watch the first episode for free on Amazon Prime if you are a member of that. This is a dramedy set in 1980, and it revolves around some recent college grads who are buddies, and they're all setting out to pursue their various dreams in Manhattan, while still trying to, cling to their original lives as they did growing up in Long Island. This show is another sort of disappointing one. I sort of liked the idea, the premise, but we've seen this time and time again. And setting it specifically in 1980, now for me, that's Freaks and Geeks era. They did the school year of 80 to 81. So, obviously that's high school. These guys are a little older than that, having graduated college. But, the music cues are sort of similar, and all of the vibes are similar with, the townspeople and this and that and the other thing. And, the set designs and stuff. But, Freaks and Geeks, one of the things I always talked about in those reviews that I did is the attention to detail taken by Paul Feig and Judd Apatow. Here, it's a lot more just sort of slapdash. And the music, it's just constant. Like, Freaks and Geeks used it sparingly to present a point, as did the Wonder Years, back in the 80s when they used 60s music. And here, it's just like constant, the big hits of the day, throwing them up there. So that was a little annoying. I didn't hate the characters, though. I mean, there's some interesting people, I guess. I'm not sure if I care about them enough to watch the whole series, but Edward Norton plays the father of one of the characters, and I always like seeing him. He's only in one scene in the premiere episode, but he's always good. I didn't recognize any of the people, so and that I sort of appreciate in shows like this, because it really does help you to sort of dive in a little bit more to, okay, well, this isn't so and so playing this. This is, new person that I've never met before. And look, it worked. I had never seen any of the people on Freaks and Geeks to that point. Never seen anybody on the Wonder Years to that point. So, My So-Called Life, you could say the same. So I get it. It's actually one of the things I found distracting about the Netflix show. Shoot, I forget what it was called, but like it had all of these, pretty famous people in it. And let me see if I can look it up. It was something Buddies, maybe. I don't remember at all, but I watched it for like 3 or 4 episodes. Keegan-Michael Key was in it, who I typically like, and the whole cast, but it was like all people that friends from college. That's what it was called. So, Keegan-Michael Key, Fred Savage. Speaking of the Wonder Years, he was one of them. Colby Smulders was in it. So it's like it was all people we knew. This does not have that, and I did appreciate that going into it. I think it's just trying way too hard though to capture that 1980 vibe. So and so's dating this person, and so so's having sex with this person, and but it's a secret. Very, very tried and true themes. And I didn't really find it all that funny either. But I think the drama part is okay. Acting's all right. I just think it's trying way too hard on that 1980 vibe. And that was definitely a downgrade because of it for me. So I'm going to leave Bridge and Tunnel with a C-. So not any super great grades so far. Definitely Resident Alien, my top for the week. But let's talk about Go Dog Go to wrap it up. This is on Netflix, and sort of doing a lot of children's books and turning them into Netflix shows. They did Green Eggs and Ham last year. I guess 2 years ago now, 2019. And it was actually one of my favorite shows of 2019. I thought it was very well done. And this is, I don't think, from the same people. This is from DreamWorks. I'm not sure if it's from the same people. This one not from a Dr. Seuss book, but from the P.D. Eastman book. And really, they're all sort of under the same umbrella, because they have the doctor's or the Cat in the Hat sticker on the front that says, like beginner book, I can read, whatever. And this book has that. So I don't really remember reading Go Dog Go as a kid as much as certain others. So I actually reread it. They had it at Target the other day, so I just picked it up, and it's like, you can read it in about 90 seconds if you're an adult. So I read it. It's a pretty bare bones book, They really, I think, needed to find some things for this show. And there's some classic tropes from the book in the show, like the dog party at the end, like the fact that they're always on the move, and they're taking different courses of action to get there. Bicycle, blimp, running, it's always sort of based around dogs on the move. And I think this show actually incorporates that pretty well. The essential premise is there's a new dog in town, and so they're all sort of, he's getting out there and meeting the other dogs, and the hot dog of the day, Tag Barker, takes him under his wing, and they go all around the town of Pauston, doing different things. I thought it was cute. Now Green Eggs and Ham, they took the tact of, let's make it a serial show. So all 10 episodes are connected. Here, it's 2 15-minute segments in each episode. They have nothing to do with one another, like a lot of shows on, Disney Junior, Nick Jr., whatever. So it makes sense. That's sort of the hot thing to do. And it works here for the show. I don't think these premises need to be stretched out to, 23, 25 minutes. I think 11, 12-minute segments work perfectly. The animation's all right. It's from DreamWorks, so obviously, they know what they're doing in that regard. I do like that they are really trying to encapsulate the artwork of the book into what they're doing here with the different dogs and the different backgrounds. So I appreciate that, and I think it's good messages for kids about sharing and stuff like that. There's a little bit of music in it. It's not a music intensive show, but there's some music. I think this is a cute show for the kids. I leave Go Dog Go with a B. All right, so that wraps it up. I was trying to do shorter reviews than usual since we spent so long on the news with the Golden Globe announcements and then the regular news. So next week, maybe a shorter show. I've been trying to get them under 45 minutes. I knew that was not going to be the case this week, but that's all right. A couple of new shows already out that we will have to talk about next week. The Queen Latifah update of The Equalizer and the new Snoopy show on Apple Plus. So those plus a few others. Obviously Netflix always has something to talk about every single week, it seems like, and I think in 2 weeks we're going to see the premieres of Young Rock and the new Kenan Thompson show on NBC, so we'll probably get to those in another couple of weeks as well. So thank you for watching TV News and Reviews, and we will see you next time. Bye.